Probably not true, but anyways, thank you. Before I start, I guess I want to thank Lisa for inviting me and my foundation, and Four Pillars for putting on the event. Any chance, any group gets to raise awareness about any cause, about animals or anything or person that's oppressed, it's always a great thing, and so thank you. It'll be kind of like a weird talk. Usually I speak in front of people who really don't know what we do, but I think here most people are activists, and so I'll still talk about kind of who we are, some about my past and who I am, and then the only positive thing I get to talk about are the changes we are making in Asia and locally when it comes to the oppression of animals. And so also I'm going to show 3 short videos. People who follow me, usually my videos are, I don't know, mildly graphic or something, and so they're not that bad, but it kind of shows like what these animals go through. And then 2 of the videos have happy endings, and so, yeah. Anyways, it's strange being here. On Saturday, I got back from my 17th trip in Asia. And every time I talk about it, it's hard to speak about, even though it's become my life. It's hard to speak about because the things that I see as a person are different from maybe what you see as a society. When the foundation started, back then I used to rescue dogs. And we did a bunch of local work, and we used to rescue these dogs that were abused and beaten, and we used to take them and rehab them. And back then, there was so much joy in watching someone or something tortured or abused, because that happens in America as well. And how you could rehab them and give them this great life, and how they could teach us to be better human beings. In 2015, I learned about the dog trade. And when I left America for the first time, it was weird because I didn't even know what I was doing or who I was, but I saw something on social media, and I said, that can't be true. There's no way in the world that anybody is deliberately torturing an animal. And so in September of 2015, I left for the first time, and I've been there ever since. I want to speak about something in Asia that I saw, and it was hard for me to post. After I documented it, I actually sent it to somebody here in the audience. He's from a group called Toronto Pig State. And I want to talk about it because it's important. Because sometimes in the work that I do, the people who follow me, they just see dogs, where I see living things and animals that are equal, maybe even to ourselves. I went to this slaughterhouse where they kill cows and horses. For people who don't know, I do undercover everything. Labs, sheep, beagles, the dog meat trade, horses, and children as well. When I went into this slaughterhouse, there was this mom cow and a baby cow, and they were roped to the bar on the wall, and they have these rings in their nose so they can't get away. And I watched them take this baby and walk the baby onto the kill floor, which is maybe 20 feet away from the mother. And the mother started screaming and fighting, so much so that I thought she was going to rip her face off because of the ring. They killed her daughter. And even though I couldn't understand her language, I knew what she was saying because I'm a father. They walked back for her, and they took the the rope off and they walked her onto the kill floor. And usually, because nobody wants to die, you fight and you scream and you beg for existence, but she walked up there and they took a hammer and they hit her in the head. She fell down on her back legs. She got back up without crying. And they hit her again and again and they laughed at her. And I post these videos about these dogs all the time, but this was hard for me to post. And I don't know why, because the dogs go through something similar, worse or better, I don't know. But I posted it because I wanted people to see and to read the experience that I had. This mother fighting for her daughter. And after she died, she walked out there and stood proud in front of death, like I would for my own children. And she died, and we all want to live. In doing what I do, going undercover, I become vegan at the end because I realized that that single choice that I make as a human being saves lives. And it's so important. And for people who have thought about it and haven't changed or think it's difficult, it's not. And so maybe that's a seed that we planted for the future. Anyways, people who follow our foundation, a lot of them don't know who I am and why I even started doing this. When I was 20 years old, I went to prison. And I didn't just go to prison. I was there for a long time. I remember I was in solitary confinement one day, and it rained, and this ant walked in, this little ant. And I saw him come and take a piece of bread that was on the ground and walk out. And then I told myself that the next time it rained, I would be ready. And when it rained, I put all these little balls of bread that I had kept, and I laid them all over the floor, and sure enough, the ant came. I watched him walk into my cell, the scout ant, and take a bite of the bread and walk out. And maybe in an hour or so, there were thousands of them. And it sounds crazy now, but when you're locked in a cage and have nothing and no one, that connection to anything living is so important. And I laid there on the cell on my floor as he walked all over me. And it changed my life. You know, when I got out, I thought I was going to be this angry person. But the first day, I looked into the sky, and I saw color. My wife was waiting there, my father. Second chances. You know, our foundation does this controversial work. I go undercover into slaughterhouses where they're torturing dogs. And when people see it, they scream and they're so upset. But we're not doing anything more different or more important than another group like Mercy for Animals or Animal Liberation or Animal Equality, who does the same for chickens and horses or cows or sheep. But when it's a dog, it changes things and people become so angry. And so they talk bad about us sometimes. Sometimes they'll use my past against me. You can't be afraid of your past because it's what makes you who you are. People always ask, how can this guy leave his family? And I have these two young children that are old enough to understand exactly what I'm doing. And when I leave, they hold onto my leg, and my wife has to pry them off my body. And they always tell me why are they more important than me? But they're not. It's just, I need to live in a world where something has a chance. And so I leave. On Saturday, I got back home from my 17th trip. We went to 4 countries. We went undercover into slaughterhouse after slaughterhouse, into fur farms, into a child brothel where there was an 8-year-old boy on a bed behind a net that people are having sex with. Why? Because it's the awareness that makes a difference. Speaking about James and his group, when I first came up to Toronto, it was for a vigil for something called a pig save, where these trucks drive in, and you stand there and you can't rescue them. Just like when I'm in a slaughterhouse, sometimes people will say, you just stood there and videotaped it. There's 30 people there, hundreds of animals dying, and you really can't do anything but hope that somebody sees or hears your cries, and that changes it. And so I came up to this vigil, and the founder of this vigil, Nita, she started talking about a concept called bearing witness. That to me is the single most important thing that we have as human beings. Opening your eyes and watching it. Sometimes I post these videos on Facebook, and people, they can't look at it. I have to be there in person while they're tortured, they're burned alive, hung, electrocuted. But imagine living your life in a cage, having all your children taken away and watching everybody you love killed in front of you, and then you're next. You know, when I was in prison, I thought somebody was going to save me. I don't know. Every night when I went to sleep, I thought God was somebody who was going to open the walls and I was going to walk out. But in the end, I had to save myself. But these animals, the most oppressed species on earth, they have no chance. They have no voice. They have nothing. And that's why we are here. The people that spoke earlier, that's why they're in the field. That's why they're raising awareness. When I started in 2015, I didn't even know what I was doing. I can't speak Chinese, even though I'm Asian. And when I left, all I had was a plane ticket and a backpack. I didn't know that the internet was filtered. I didn't know that. I didn't even think about a hotel when I left. And when I was out there, I saw a suffering that I had never seen before. I'm like this huge believer of people and love and humanity. Anyways, in time, what I started to change. I used to go to China and buy dogs because I didn't know what else to do. I used to go to these slaughterhouses and I would see them, and I literally was so desperate to help them that I would pay. And people attacked us for buying animals, but I didn't know what to do. I wasn't born an activist. I didn't tell myself one day I'm going to start a foundation. I'm no different from anyone here. And so I did what I could, and in time I learned, because this has become my life. And so now we do different things. This past year, we started intercepting trucks. Maybe a year and a half ago, I started going undercover into slaughterhouses as a dog meat buyer from America, from New York, and I would tell these slaughterers that in New York, all the Asian people love dogs, and I'm the #1 importer or whatever. And I would go in and with my iPhone held on my side, and I would take all I could, hoping that one day I would get a chance to sit before the government and to show them that they came. They didn't care. They didn't care about them being boiled alive, or tortured, or hung, skinned alive, or beat. So we're always changing. And so now, our approach is different. Education. And so in Asia, as well as the United States, some of our primary goals are centered now around education. In China, it's funny how we get so lucky. In 2016, when I went to the Yulin Dog Meat Festival, this young woman named Suki started following me online. And she literally left her life, her business that she owned, she left the UK. She's originally from China, left the UK. She came to help us. Right now, she runs Animal Hope Alone in China. And a lot of the focus today has been on Korea. We work in Korea as well, but our primary goal is in China. Because in China, in my opinion, that is where some of the most horrific acts against not only animals, but people are occurring. And so we are in this country with the aim of educating and raising awareness. We have a shelter there that's very, very, very large that Suki's family has donated to us. Currently, we have 700 to 800 dogs and cats. We have a pig that I named after this guy, James, in the crowd, and also goats that are rescued from slaughterhouses and chickens. And we're starting an education program with the colleges in the area, with the vet school that they're going to come and help our animals, with the high school, but most importantly, the children there. Yep. You know, I talk about getting lucky, and today was actually, I was very lucky. Lisa and the Four Fellowship invited somebody from the Chinese consulate here, and this guy knew who I was, and I guess the superiors know who I am too, but he's actually part of the central government in China, and we have been trying, but we have never been able to communicate with them, and he communicated to me, and we're always trying to learn. And he taught me something today, which we're doing already, but he taught me that maybe I'm doing the right thing. Education, he said, that's how you change it. And so, on my next trip, when I fly back in January for my 8th meeting trip, we are going to open up our education center and have the first round of students come in. It's going to be a press event where people in the area are going to come in, and the local government's also going to come in, and we're hoping that this becomes a model for China. On this trip I went to Cambodia and I went to Korea, and in both these countries, we started a new tactic. We started taking people in the government undercover with me when I go into slaughterhouses. In Cambodia, I took a cabinet member, he's the Minister of Agriculture, and he's very, very high up. We went to the slaughterhouse, and we were there as a buyer, and they're working. So when we go in, they're working, and they're killing all these dogs. And he stood there with me, and they don't purposely do it, but they purposely beat him up. So they beat him up, and they hang him, and they're all tied up, and he threw this dog in heated water that was boiling, and it's a deferring process. And when this dog hit this water, the dog started screaming. And this guy, this government employee said, aren't you going to do something? And I told him, what? What can I do? This is not my country. Look how many workers there are. What can we do? He says, do something. And so we paid to free that dog, even though I said we stopped buying them, so, but that's the But we paid to free that dog. I took him to the vet and we rescued him. But what was so unique about it, this experience, was this guy who came with me, who told me something. He said, you know, Mark, how can we help the people? I mean, how can we help animals when we can't even help our own people? And I told him that passing animal cruelty legislation isn't just about the animals. It's a blueprint and a framework of how human beings are supposed to behave in society. Animal abuse is directly linked to psychopaths and serial killers. And so passing any type of legislation that outlines how we are supposed to behave as human beings doesn't just help animals. It helps the people in our society to be different, to function different. And he told me that everybody in his government should come and see what he saw today. Because he was once against what I did and represented, now he's for it. In Korea, on Friday I was there, and we took two people in the government, Congressman Zay and somebody in the state government, the state government in Google, the city. And they came with us. And this is the same thing, that it was such an eye-opening experience. You know, bearing witness, why it's so important is these slaughterhouses where they're hurting these animals. You think it's humane, but there is no humane way to die. And it's what you can't see that changes it. That is why documentation is so essential and so important. And that's why you cannot turn away. You have to share it. You know, when you look at a group, a lot of people want money, and a lot of people need money and are asking for donations. What we're asking for is to spread the word, to raise awareness, to speak about it, to adopt a dog from a dog being trained. So when you're walking down the street and somebody says, "That's a cute dog," you can tell them, "My dog was tortured, hung in a slaughterhouse and beat, and stolen from somebody, and was lucky enough, out of the millions of animals, to come to America or someplace to have a second chance." Awareness. You know, tomorrow I leave at 3 o'clock, but I'm going to a vigil in Burlington at a slaughterhouse that if you haven't been to, you have to come. Not for yourself, but to do justice by those who are being killed now. Just because you cannot see it, it doesn't make it not real. So you can show something that needs to know it, that compassion exists. I'm going to show you this video of a dog named Happy that has no legs. It doesn't show anything graphic, but it shows the suffering this animal endured in the vet, and the chance he has now, or she has now, because she's in America. You know, to watch something like that, and if you're a parent, to think about it as if it's your own child. This year when I was in Newland, I was in a slaughterhouse, and they were beating and killing these dogs and skinning them. And there was this one dog that after he was skinned, he crawled on the floor, and he came to my feet. And I picked him up, and as I held him in my arms, it was as if I was holding my own child. That is how intense and how difficult it is to be an animal in our society. You know, these videos are so important because they break somebody down so much that they inspire people to become activists. You know, doing this for as long as I have, I don't even consider myself an activist, but I'm human. And the best thing about being human is that if we try, we can do anything. Sometimes people comment on our page, and they talk about me being a hero, but I'm not. I'm no different from anyone. And my message is always, be your own hero. If you see something happening and you hate it, get up and speak about it and do something. Because without that, nothing changes. To talk about some of the work we're doing in Asia, this Yulin was very different from my first Yulin. In my first Yulin, I had this crazy idea now when I think of it, that I was going to go inside this place and I was going to shut down all these slaughterhouses and play these torture videos on these screens, and people who were eating dogs were going to see it and they were going to be so disgusted and it was going to be great. And in real life, things don't really happen that way. But we did shut down some slaughterhouses, 6 of them, temporarily for the festival. But I didn't think that when you shut down a slaughterhouse, there's all these dogs that you have to rescue. And back then, we didn't know any different, so we bought them. We rescued over 1,000 dogs. This year for Yulin, we changed that, and we said, we're not going to buy dogs this year. We're going to intercept and stop trucks. And so for Yulin, we stopped 4 trucks. A couple days ago, last week, I stopped another truck. We chased them down in cars in groups of 3, and we literally pushed them off the road, pull the driver out of the car, and take the dogs. And the hope is that other groups will follow the model, and by taking the dogs, these slaughterhouses will go bankrupt, because if somebody buys dogs from you and they don't receive them, they're going to have to give them their money back. And that's the hope, also to raise awareness, and in some cases that we find some of these dogs are microchipped and we're able to get them back to their family. This next video we're going to play is a video we're going to be showing in our education center and playing colleges in Asia so they can see how intense things are. So this is this year's Yulin and what we did. A video of the truck, one of them, and of the dogs. You know, that last dog that you saw getting CPR was the first dog that was walking in the video. That dog had a microchip. What was so sad about the story was when we contacted the owner of the microchip, they were so happy that they found their dog. But the dog died before he even could make it home. And I have children and I have dogs. To fathom that they could be kidnapped from me, taken from their family, pushed onto a truck for 40 hours, and to end up in a slaughterhouse, tortured, beaten, and to think the whole time, why isn't my daddy coming to save me? That's the reality that these animals go through, and why the work that people are doing in regard to the dog trade and any animal being pushed into slaughterhouses are so important. That's the suffering we're trying to save and stop. Once again, I talk about awareness. A lot of people don't even know that this is happening in Canada, in America, even in China. I'll talk about something easier to talk about. I'll talk about our programs. And so in China, we have a shelter with about 700 something animals there. A lot of them, almost all of them, not even almost all of them, right now all of them, come back to America. And as a foundation, we get criticized sometimes by other rescue groups saying, you know, we have dogs in our own shelters, and this guy, who does he think he is, bringing all these dogs to America? And we do have dogs dying in our shelters. And there's so many great groups doing great work to rescue those animals. But every group is different. The dogs that we save are no different from refugees fleeing from war in countries who seek refuge and safe haven in our own countries because we have laws, because they have a future and can live a different life. In China, we're focusing on education and legislative work. Legally, we are not doing a great job. China is such a hard place to work in because it's still communist, and the central government, in my opinion, is a little difficult. But in Cambodia, I think we're making the most progress. We have been in talks with the government, and we are doing things that they're asking us to do, starting a spay neuter program to cut down on the stray population. We see something very different where some groups may say a lot of dogs aren't stolen. In China, we believe 80% are. In Cambodia, a lot are strays, but a lot are stolen as well. And so we are focusing on legislation, primarily in Cambodia, believing that when you change the law, it doesn't eradicate an industry, but 90% of it will be extinguished. In Korea, I think we are getting the furthest, and part due to all these other great groups who are doing great work out there. And so they should be congratulated more than I. But we are working on a deal that we've been working on for a while, restructuring and revitalizing a popular meat market called Rupo. We don't have funding like large groups do, so we have been working on raising it by corporate sponsorship, where we have an agreement from the slaughterhouse that has 20-something slaughterhouses in there that they will change. And we're trying to use that in our legislative campaign. We are introducing dog meat legislation, and we have been speaking with congressmen who have supported it. And we're trying to tie everything together. We haven't really announced it yet because we are working locally on a bill called 1406 that our foundation had paid to write, and we've hired a lobbyist who is doing excellent work, and currently up to date it has 199 co-sponsors. There are some people at this table here who actually got up from their daily lives and went to Washington to speak to the congressman about supporting 1406, which is the Dog and Cat Meat Prohibition Act in America. It's hard to tell another country what to do unless you do it first. America, I don't know about Canada, but America's famous for telling people what to do and we don't do it. So we would like that to change. And so we are lucky that we have support of certain celebrities who have used their status to push Congress to even speak with us. And things are actually going very well with that. Because I've been in maybe major PTSD mode from my trip, I haven't really been able to update, but I will. And then there's something called House Resolution 401, which is something that condemns the dog meat trade. It's the United States giving their opinion about that dogs shouldn't be eaten and tortured for food in Asia. That is, I don't think going as well, correct? No. It is not going as well. No. And so, when we speak to congressmen, so we have an open line with many congressmen. Luckily, Mr. Kevin McCarthy, who's a majority leader, and actually has the power to do so much. A lot of the pushback we get for 401 is, you know, it's not our problem, or that's what they say. And a lot of people say, clean up our own country first as far as 1406. So as a foundation, 1406, not just because we paid for it and sponsored it and hired people to write it, but it's our main focus because to us that's probable a possibility. I don't want to talk too long, so I just want to talk about something equally important that we're doing on a local level in California. We're doing something called Riley's Law, which is an offshoot from a law that they have in Massachusetts that this lady, Diane Urban, wrote. We're going to be introducing this in January when the new session begins. What it does is, for all the vegan people, sorry, but what it does is it gives dogs and cats who have been abused in violent, abusive cases representation in a court of law. While I'm vegan and I wish I could do it for all animals, the reality of getting that passed in California is impossible. But if we can pass a law where a dog that's abused, when that person stands trial, it will have legal representation. That's the first step in my country. The closest we will come so far is to giving an animal any sort of right. And so, because how our country's made, that they are considered companion animals, we are doing a bill for dogs and cats. We're also linking that to child abuse, meaning that any dog or cat that Animal Services or Animal Cruelty takes in a cruelty situation, Child Services now has to come to the house and speak to the children if there are children. And we're hoping that because we believe it's directly related, animal abuse and child abuse and even spousal abuse or whatever, that we can save children's lives as well. So locally, our focus is doing a lot as far as animals too. And so when we come out with Riley's Law, we're doing this huge celebrity campaign in Los Angeles, and I have high hopes that it'll be successful. And it'll be the first time in the United States, well, not the first time, but the first time in California that any animal is given some type of right, legal right to representation. To speak a little bit more about what we're doing, we have a shelter in Sherman Oaks, and we are going to venture on a pilot program where education in our own country is important because animal abuse is a problem. People, even children, they burn animals just for, I don't know why, but they do, or do crazy stuff. And so we're starting with Sherman Oaks, where my son goes to, and they are going to be coming to our shelter 4 times a year to speak about animals, and we'll also speak about the dog meat trade, but pigs and sheep, and to raise awareness. And we're also, which we wrote when we haven't done just yet because we're trying to pass 1406, we actually drafted a federal bill, and 1406 is a federal bill, that mandates that all schools that receive public support have a vegan option. This is more of a personal project. Not everybody in my foundation is vegan, but this is more of a personal project of mine. But also because my son does not eat meat and my daughter does not eat meat. They're not vegan, they're vegetarian. It's kind of hard to, they're 4.5 and 6, but they're trying. But in their school, I believe as they grow up, they'll be ridiculed and people make fun of them, and I don't want that to happen. And they'll grow up having to bring home lunch to school because I want them to eat hot dogs or things like that. Hopefully, when my kids are in that environment, even though my young son is, where people are picking on you for that, hopefully he's strong enough to take a stand for animals and say, my daddy rescued these dogs from slaughterhouses, and so I can't eat them because if I did, that wouldn't be right. And so, anyways, I'll end it here, and I'll just say, for anyone who hasn't been to a vigil, please think about coming tomorrow at 9 p.m. Sitting at the back table is James from Toronto Big Save and Jennifer, and they are huge advocates in that type of field. You can get the addresses from them, or you can follow Toronto Pig Save on Facebook or Instagram. For people who haven't thought about going vegan or haven't looked at animals different from dogs, try to, please. You know, for me, becoming vegan, it didn't just happen. It was a process. And even when I first became, in the beginning, I wasn't perfect. And now, I'm cruelty-free. And in the end, I might not be the best husband to my wife, because I leave all the time. Or a perfect father. But when I die, I'll be vegan. For one reason, the animals.